people, Deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, bro. Come on.
Come on, Ian, we're back. We're finally back, people. Deluded, I'm back again. I mean, he's part of the furniture on my platform. I can't imagine you don't know about Alex both on my platform and also on his own. How you doing, my friend? It really has been a different knock this season, man, to coin the term.
It has indeed. I'm very ill, but I'm all right. How are you?
I appreciate the commitment levels to being ill and still turning up, man. Mesut could learn a thing.
I'm getting some ibuprofen in so I can talk to you.
Do your thing, man. Do your thing, man. And obviously, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Of course, good night to everybody in the chat. Make sure you're commenting, you're subscribing and things. We've got a lot to go over, people. And don't forget to, subscribe to Alex's platform. He's just hit 60K. I personally told him, don't come back on the platform until you've got 100,000 subscribers because it's inside. Yeah, and here you are, man. I got so much for the non-negotiables. I want to kick things off, because it's been a great 2024, bro. I'm looking at it on screen. 10 wins, 1 draw, 0 defeats, 33 goals scored, 4 goals conceded, 31 points from a potential 33. How are you feeling since the turn of the year generally and with 7 games to go?
Yeah, I mean, I feel we are currently the best team in the league.
You're not alone, 100%. And it's sad because we could be the best team in the league and still in some warped way, which I hope isn't the case, not win, and for some that might question your logic, and I agreed and co-signed it. What do you mean by we're the best team in the league?
Well, I certainly mean best coached team in the league. I think, talent and achievements and so on is up for debate. But I think right now, in terms of managing every single phase of play, I think I said this a while ago on here, every single asset of football right now, we are managing and we are maximizing.
Nothing's
whether
left
it's
to chance.
Exactly, whether it's build up or press or counter press or throw-ins or corners or set pieces or playing out, whatever, you can pick anything. Arsenal have maximized it and are, either by the underlying numbers or the eye test or what you're watching, you can see that Arsenal have maximized it. So for me, we're the best at football, the game we're playing right now. However, does that mean we'll win the league? Unfortunately, we know it doesn't work like that.
You're bang on the money, man. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. But I agree with you, man. I think we're the best defensive side. I famously said on my platform, I think last year we're an improved defensive side. We're not a good defensive side. Now we are firmly a great defensive side across all aspects. As you know, that extends to, the pressing, the tactical fouls, the positioning we take up. We've got new resilience. We've got so much things to love. I want to ask you, because for me, if I had to say one thing for everything I love of what the players and Mikel Arteta are doing, I would say for me, if I had to say one thing that's impressed me the most, it's resilience. And I guess that kind of ties into defending as well, because obviously you've watched the Brighton game. We're going to get into it. We've obviously got 3 goals. We kept a clean sheet. We're doing what we're doing. But for me, that little segment where Gabriel's made that block and we're arguably celebrating that a lot more than when we've scored, for me, that tells me how much we're buying into what Arteta is doing and how much we've changed. But what would it be for you?
Yeah, I think the word you used there was buy-in, and I think that's really not buy-in, buy-in, which I think is really, really important. I think I'd said something along the lines of, I wanted to create an environment where defending matters as much as attacking, and you only do that by praising the attacking. The perfect example of this going wrong is Man United.
I'm here for the slander. Go on, man. Go on.
Look, there's a million different things wrong with Man United, but also whenever they concede a chance and it, goes behind, it goes over, it gets saved or cleared or whatever, you see the defenders go,
yeah.
It's like a style. They don't like defending. They don't enjoy defending, and you can hear it in even like the inside training videos. It's like good, nice tackle. Like you can hear the praise both ways. I'm not saying that's the only reason we like defending, but it's one of the big things. Is the culture of going. Defending is important. So that's a massive part of it. I think also, I think structurally wise in terms of our defense, we are so secure again in every, whether it's 1v1, whether it's how compact we are, whether it's how quickly we get out, whether it's how we defend in numbers. Liverpool on certain breaks yesterday, and there was, United had just been on an attack, and because they play on such a big pitch, as in their distances are so big. I think I said in the video recently,
Old Trafford's a massive ground.
It's the way they play. It's their fullbacks are out on each touchline. Their wingers are out on each touchline. Their centre midfielders are given so much space to have to manage and occupy in certain phases when they need to. So then they're constantly running. So they're by the 60th, 70th minute, they're all puffed out. They're all injured. That's why they're all injured, by the way. Well, not part of the reason. And Gary O'Driscoll's got them on his table, and they're all knackered because they're having to cover so much distance, and then they can't defend in numbers, and that's one of the things that we do. We attack and defend with so many numbers. Even I think in that clip you mentioned with Gabriel, there's 10 players in our box, or like 10 players certainly near the box. At 3-0 at 80, 90th minute, whatever it was, and that's Arteta's standards. You know what I mean? So it's all part of it.
You're bang on the money, and I know you've gone over the City game. I certainly haven't. Times past since then. I have no desire to go over it, but considering what happened midweek with Chelsea and Man United to keep up the theme with United and Liverpool and United yesterday, I have no interest in being entertaining to the wider footballing landscape. I like what we're doing, so long may that continue in that regard. And you're bang on the money, man. And I mean, tying into what you said about 10 defenders and vaguely what I've said about City, that shows me that, we're disciplined, in a journey in life. If you want to achieve everything, like for instance, I just said to you, 100K subscribers, I'm pretty sure there's not as much as you make great content, I'm sure there's aspects of creating YouTube videos or the process that you absolutely despise or you're not necessarily keen on, but you do it because it's necessary. And that is what made, this guy, that's how the fruits of the laborers are born, man. And I'm really impressed with us in that regards. And, a lot of people say Mikel Arteta ain't got a plan B. I think you're right. He's got a plan for every damn letter in the alphabet, if I'm completely honest with you.
Jorginho literally said he did. He said on it.
Bro, you see what the gaffer is doing, whether he wins this league or not. I'm not saying he should be given, free reign at the club and free from criticism, but you can't sit here and say Mikel Arteta is not the man for this football club and you cannot see what he's doing. In short, people ask for us to be competitive again. We're competitive across every aspect. You know more than me because you live with the stats. But, every day we go on social media, expected goals, turnovers, second balls, shots allowed, clean sheets, goals. We're doing the business individually. Players are improving. So it's absolutely amazing. With that being said, though, and 7 games left to go, obviously me doing my homework in the grand scheme of things to bring these lot better content. I noticed you made a tweet and you've kind of labeled it from easiest to hardest with our running people. I think we've actually got to play the most teams within the top 6 out of the remaining teams. But how do you feel with our 7 games, man? And how do you think that compares to the people to the left and right?
Yeah, people got quite annoyed at that because for some reason. But basically, it was comparing it per game week. I think the only one that doesn't actually work is I think Spurs and for City will be before West Ham. But it was what it was. I did this and I went through and I was like, on paper, again, when we talk about on paper as a fixtures, you can't just go, well, on paper, that's the hardest fixture and not name a team. Because for Liverpool going to Everton, on paper, that's a harder fixture than Man City going to Everton because it means, there's a different aspect to it. There's the Merseyside derby, there's the history to it. Arsenal going away to Man United when our whole idea is to control matches and their whole idea, well, I don't call it
they're just chaotic, man.
Their whole thing is chaos. That's a difficult game for us to manage.
Not controlled chaos like Arteta.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So on paper has to be relative to each team. And I thought on paper, these were the fixtures that I felt, okay, what's the most difficult? So per game week. So for example, Liverpool, I think at home to Sheffield United is the easiest game on paper, even though Luton on paper is hard, but I think they've got a bit more fight in them than Sheffield United. Sorry. And I thought Villa was the hardest for City and so on. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised when I went through that and sort of applying that logic of on paper having to be relative to each team, thinking that, yeah, we've got some tough games, but we've also, I don't know. I think you can, I've seen every single argument. I've seen people say Arsenal have the easiest fixtures. I've seen people say Liverpool have the easiest fixtures. I've seen people say City have the easiest fixtures. In the end, without running into cliches, it's a cliche because it's true. There's no easy games in the Prem. There aren't.
Everyone twice, man.
There are not any easy games. So, let's just look at ourselves. Let's not worry too much about what Liverpool and City are doing unless they drop points.
Do you agree with it's in our hands now, then? Because we are top, but it is on goal difference.
I mean, yes, I guess it is. By the most slimmest of margins, it is. So yeah, let's enjoy that. But all we need to do is go and beat Bayern on Tuesday and go and beat Villa at the weekend. Sorry to sound like the manager, but that is literally it. We can spend all our time projecting forward or whatever, but I think that's only and you can. Fans can do what they want, but for the team themselves, for Arsenal, for the players, for the coaching staff, whatever, let's not worry about that. Let's not look at the league table. A la TG. Have you looked at the league table yet?
I don't know. I don't look at the league table.
Yeah, I don't look at the league table.
Talking with you is the first time I'm hearing we're in the title race. And last time I checked, Mikel Arteta finished 8th, so we're doing quite well, man.
Mikel Arteta still plays for Everton. So
yeah, man. I just live in my own world, as you say. Just deal with things game to game. I would love to win the league to be with the narrative that you lot are saying. I don't even know we're still in the Champions League. What round is that? The quarterfinals. That was the minimum target.
We won it last week. So
wow, man. So we're doing all right, man. Really have to trust the process. I want to ask you as well on that as well, with it being quote unquote in our hands. Obviously, there's a lot of narratives that spin in the Premier League week to week, but all that really matters is how it starts and how it ends. Now, obviously, last season, towards the tail end of the season, whether it was because of injuries, whether because we weren't, ready to be in a title race, whatever you want to spin it, it didn't go the way we wanted it to be. How much more confident are you tying into, tactically what we've been doing and learning on the job and learning from experiences? How confident are you that, simply put, we're not going to get burnt again, really?
I'm very confident. Look, what caused the burning? I think sometimes,
multiple factors.
Same with, with trauma itself is that you have to look and face it and see what it is that actually caused the issue. You can't just sort of deal with the sort of symptoms and side issues. You've got to look at it and you go, right, well, what actually was it that causes an issue? It was 2 massive injuries in the same location and probably a certain lack of resilience from the team. And I would also add a third factor, which I think has only recently come up for me. Arteta spoke recently about his ego. He said something along the lines of, in the City game, you had to put your ego aside.
Yes, you do.
And as far as we're aware, I think there was a story from Mikel Arteta that Declan Rice said we're going to play very, very differently than you expect against Man City. I think Mikel.
Yeah, I think I saw a segment. I think that was Mikel Antonio, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So Mikel, I think, went away to City and wouldn't say it publicly, but went, let's not get beat. And let's actually,
wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, because, in the overall grand scheme of things, 4 points from Liverpool and 4 points from Man City and then trying to win every other game is fine with me. I think there was a desire last season with, the obvious limitations in the team to still go for it at the Etihad, which I wonder whether on reflection, and try and go for that man-for-man press, try and step onto City, try and beat them in the way we'd beaten loads of other teams that season, and we got burned. And I wonder whether Mikel has, and he literally said, putting your ego aside. And I do wonder, because he's always talking about, things that I would have changed, things I would have improved, so we have to start to say, well, what actually are they then? And I this is my guess, that it was the City game away. So I think there's also the third kind of thing, which is I think Mikel might be a little bit more willing to be a bit more pragmatic, might be willing to be a little bit more different to, we've seen it in the last couple of games. Against Luton, we actually sat in. Against Brighton, for a period, we sat in. I think Bayern, there might be periods where we go, do you know what, guys? Let's sit in. It's okay. We don't have to, let's go and win the match and then sit in. I think this idea that we have to be on all the time, Thomas Partey spraying those balls, Zinchenko, spraying those balls, getting forward, press, everyone get forward. I think we've found a different face to ourselves now. And I think that's what's exciting.
I think you're bang on the money because, I would describe us last season to a degree now, and it's not a bad thing, as a very emotional side. You need emotion. You need to galvanize. That's why Mikel Arteta, one of the biggest things that I think goes over a lot of people's head, on top of everything he said when he walked in the club, was the atmosphere. We're doing the business away from home, and the away fans reflect that. We're doing that at the Emirates. And I do think we're very emotional, and I think that's good. But tying into what you're saying, I think we're a lot more cool, calm, collected, and ultimately calculated. And I actually think that's been there since August. I think people at the beginning of the season said we're not quite playing our crisp football now. As you know, injuries, Partey was playing right back. There was other things Mikel Arteta was doing that maybe contributed to it, in my opinion. But that's what you need to do. It has to be less romantic, and you're bang on the money with that about, we tried to kind of go toe-to-toe with City, which we've shown we can do, but across 90 minutes is silly. And adding into the segments, I liked when Arteta was saying things around, I asked my players, are you ready to, run for 30 minutes? If you are, then you're ready to go against City. And Mikel Arteta has to at times keep that ego, but put it to the side. Like you said, he's doing it in great stead. And kind of indirectly what you said, tying into City with Bayern Munich, it gives me general confidence that if there is times where we need to box smart, because it's like previous years, we've tried to just, from minute 0 of that boxing match, try and land the lockout blow. Now, if you've got great punching power, that's going to work, but it's not the greatest of the ideas. So I think you're bang on the money. Going back to this then, this fixture list, For you, what's the most nerve-wracking games beyond the obvious? What do you feel? What do you feel with Aston Villa, Wolves, Chelsea, and so on, man? Where do you think it could be won and lost then?
Right now, I think Villa is the hardest fixture of that game week, which is why it's an X. But I still think we'll win that. I have a good feeling about Chelsea at home. I see no problem there. I have a good feeling about Bournemouth at home. I have a good no problem there. It's tricky
because the Old Trafford tax.
But I think it depends how they're playing. But if we can control even some aspects of that game, I'm not too worried about that. And obviously Everton, I think, will be fine. The two are Wolves away and Spurs away. Those are the ones. That said, though, I think Spurs are fallible. They're kind of a little bit like what you were just saying. I think they're a little bit go, Angeable. And, I see them, how high the centre-backs are, how high the fullbacks sit, and they gamble a lot. And I think, if we, against Brighton, it's not always how we play. We were playing on the last line with Havertz. So, we could try that, because we have so many different faces and so many different ways of playing. I don't worry about, whether we can find a way. We will find a way. It's just whether it works.
Where we can execute,
yeah. So the execution is the issue. So Spurs, I think, will be a tricky game for some reason. I don't know why. I'd be interested in if you've got one of these fixtures. For some reason, Wolves away worries me. I don't know why. I've had it in my head since about February. Just for some reason, that Wolves game. I think also where it comes in the season. I think it might be just after that second leg against Bayern. Let me just check that. I could be wrong.
So now we're going to have to utilize the squad if that is true as well. Well, we have to utilize the squad anyways, which is actually a good thing I've seen with Arteta.
Yeah, boy, it's after going away to Bayern. I've just got a feeling about it. But yeah, is there one that you have that you're like?
Do you know what? It's weird, because I would say Wolves away as well, just because I really rate Gary O'Neill. I don't think he gets a lot of plaudits and things like that. Now, I always have a bias towards Arsenal away from home, which is kind of redundant because we're actually, doesn't matter if we're at home or away, there's no contrast in performance or inconsistencies. So I'd probably say Wolves away. If you were to really push me for an answer, though, I must admit, I would say it's Man United or Spurs. I know it sounds cliche and it's the cop out, just because they could spoil our day. They've got nothing else on. I know Spurs are still fighting for top four, and United vaguely are. It's as long as it's mathematically possible. I guess you have to fight, as Wenger said. But if I would say Wolves away. I would say Spurs just because of I know we won there last year, but we don't have the best of records there, and they could just potentially spoil our day. And also with the fixtures coming quite quick and whatnot, and we've got a very condensed squad. I don't know what the climate's going to look like. Man United, I'd say, is very scary for me because, and I sound like a hypocrite because I agree with you. I think Ten Hag is out of his depth. I don't really feel they have a philosophy or a style of play. I think when you compare their version of chaotic versus ours, there's a direct contrast. But they seem to kind of be up for big games, quote unquote, statistically or not. We have got that Old Trafford tax. And that's the only thing that makes me nervous, if I'm honest with you, man. But if I had to really say, I'd say that Spurs game or Wolves away. Wolves away. I'm a bit like you. I don't know why that Wolves away game sticks out. Because it shouldn't really, with the greatest of respect to Wolves. But it does.
I don't know. It's I mean, obviously, as we said earlier, the players and the coaching staff just need to worry about the next game. But we can project forward a little bit. And for some reason, I don't know whether I'm just trying to be a hipster or something. But there's more obvious picks. But for some reason, that Wolves game, I don't know. Just got it. It's
because of Gary O'Neill, man. I think
they are a really good side. They're
really good coach side, man. And I don't know if Pedro Neto will be fit, but it's a cliche. And I wouldn't say it scares me, but all our job is to do is to win our games and keep these talking points going week to week. And obviously, it's like an avalanche, innit? The more it happens, the more it kind of spoken about, and the more we've got a target on our back. I do think Arsenal have crossed that territory now, where we're crippling teams, we're disabling teams. They're not really doing anything to us. But everybody wants, like City, everyone wants to say we've beaten Manchester City, the best of the best. I think we're crossing into that realm. So it's a bit of a technical one. What did you make of the Brighton game?
Technical one. Is it Bow says, or is it? It's techie.
It's techie, man. You are a hipster, man. You are a hipster. It's techie. It's techie.
Okay.
Difficult.
Bayern Munich.
No, Brighton, mate. Brighton. Slow down.
Brighton. Sorry.
Maybe like Zinchenko, man. Apologies. Too excited to pass the ball forward.
My head scrambled. It's all in there. Brighton. It was a strange one because. Maybe because I was watching at my friend's house, so I was in a slightly different dynamic. I don't know whether you feel this sometimes. Maybe you feel it because you do the watch alongs, right? So maybe you sort of come off and then look at the reaction online. sometimes I'll watch a game. And I really try not to look at my phone or anything like that. Like I'll go on at half time, but I don't go on the timeline because I think a lot of the time it kind of skews your view of the game.
You're not
And
watching the game, yeah.
I want to be as clear as possible. And you're also not literally watching
Yeah.
it. Mate, I've got this whole thing about 90% of Twitter. They're like tweeting like 50 times during the game. I'm like, how can you be watching it?
You're not.
You're
watching
not
it.
actually watching what.
And then you're watching it with biased lenses
You're
according to what
watching
players you do or don't
through
like.
other people's opinion. Anyway, it's a whole different video. But yeah, I went on Twitter and looked on YouTube and stuff as I do post match to sort of see what the reaction is. I was shocked by we were good. We were good. I don't claim that, but I think there was a sense of, George, for example, who was on your show the other day. He said he thought it was really fluid, and I was like, I don't know. And then I looked at I watched Match of the Day later on that night, and I thought it really flattered us. I thought, we had the bigger chances, but obviously, again, a highlights package is going to take the big chances. That's what they're going to take. That's the most exciting thing.
Or whatever they want to paint, whatever narrative they want. So you're not going to see everything, really.
But the numbers, I think they had something like more final third entries than us. I think they had higher possession than us, certainly in the second half, maybe not the first half. I think we beat them by 0.1 on field tilt. But all these things, I joke about it, but all these things, tell me again, it was a lot more even than a lot of people said, I think. And I think the scoreline slightly flattered us. I'm not saying we weren't good. I think what the part that impressed me, Brighton are so good at adapting to what you do. We were playing on the last line for a little bit. They dropped back. We were trying to play around the sides. They were getting out to us quickly. We were trying to go through them. They compacted the middle a little bit. We were trying to build up with Raya for a little while, and they stepped onto us. I think they added one of their midfielders, Adingra or whatever it was, just to their press. So they are so good at recognizing in-game what you do. And by the way, De Zerbi, they won't do it because, well, maybe they will now. Because, but I think United would be a fantastic fit for him. They're perfect for him.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, because they would be really, really good. So yes, credit to De Zerbi. But yeah, the part I was impressed with most was how we adapted, was how in game we went from playing on the last line to playing out from the back to trying to construct some interior play, to trying to fire it through the lines, to trying to dribble out from the back. All these different ways of playing. Something Rohan Jivan pointed out. Has he got back to you?
No. Put him on blast. See people, put him on blast. Put him on blast.
I'll text him. I can't remember what he said. Let me get back to you. Also, just recently discovered this on StreamYard. Hang on.
I've seen that quite a few times when I've had content creators happen. When I do it, it don't bang though. But yeah,
rubbish, not working. But yeah, he said something Raya did, which I really like, was Brighton were trying to. I think they were trying to press us on our right, so we go to the left, so they could target Zinchenko and get 1v1. And
save the Zinchenko thoughts. We're getting onto that.
Yeah, and Raya did really well to sort of counter that. They were often trying to sort of make it almost force us either, I can't remember which way, but to the left or to the right. And he would go the other way to create some space. So, I just thought we countered them well. Mikel said in his post-match something along the lines of like, there were certain things that they were doing down one side that we didn't expect. And he was asked what it was and he wouldn't tell this guy. But, there's certain things that they thought they would do and he didn't. And they didn't, sorry. So, yeah, I was pleased with how we adapted. I didn't think we were amazing, but I was pleased with how we managed the game. And again, that's something that's changed this season, is our game management.
Like you said there, that's the main thing for me with game management. I think for previous years, Arsenal have either been 0 or 100. We haven't necessarily had that middle ground. Historically, we've either been absolutely brilliant or we've been terrible. We started a game well, we haven't ended it well, and vice versa. I do think, and as much as I get it, Arsenal fans, we're keeping clean sheets. We've got a great defensive pivot, great individual players. The manager's doing great things, and we're battering teams and scoring goals. I understand that we want to be amazing like a prime Barcelona side every game, and I'm sure Arteta and the players want that. But again, using boxing as an analogy, I think we've had to box smart, and I think it was a mature and professional performance, a bit like with the Luton game. And I think at this point in the season, it's just about getting it done, if I'm completely honest. Credit to Brighton though, because for me, I don't think we was at our sparkling best, and I don't think they were terrible. But at the end of the day, we won 3-0 and kept a clean sheet. I think they beat our press very well, kind of echoing what you said. Yeah. I think they, in the first 20 minutes to half an hour, I think they kind of denied us playing from the central regions. I think Jorginho, Rice, and Odegaard had a bit of tea teething issues. I think they beat our press well, and I think Gabriel kind of, until Arteta tweaked things, he kind of looked uncomfortable going back to what he had to do last season in covering for Zinchenko. Like there was even times where he would get onto that Mulder guy and they'll just beat the press and do quite well. That being said, though, the first 20 minutes, I think we had great chances, maybe even 3 great chances. I think Big Gabriel had a header. Saka obviously had that dazzling run, and there's a lot of frustrations with Gabriel Jesus. In fact, let's start with Gabriel Jesus. What have you made of him? Because I must admit, while he could be a bit more clinical, obviously he's not the fittest and he might not be the better option. I'm quite shocked and appalled with the rhetoric around him. Like, I just genuinely don't believe he's been terrible, and I don't think he was against Brighton.
I haven't seen loads of criticism of him, to be honest. Personally, I think what's, now we're on the level of City in terms of how we play. I'm not saying we're on the same level in terms of trophies and status and so on, but in terms of how we play, the numbers are there, the results are there. I think Jesus has become what he was at City, which is a great forward option.
And what did we speak about when he signed for us?
Slightly flawed.
This is where he needs to be.
And can't play every game. So, it is what it is. I think, I think what Arteta, I think, really prizes in forwards is the unselfish work. It's the movement, it's the pressing from the front, it's the decision making, it's bringing others into play, it's all that stuff. And I think Jesus, similar to Eddie, you need a little bit of selfishness in you as a number 9. But I think occasionally Jesus, it's not necessarily selfishness. It's more in his decision making. I just don't think he's got a sharp enough brain in the final third to see pictures. When Saka approaches the final third, you can almost, when he gets his pass off and makes a run, you can watch what his idea is. He's going, right, I'm giving that ball in here.
Calculated.
Yeah, because I've got an idea to make this run here, or Ben White's whatever. On that side, Odegaard and Saka and White, it doesn't always pay off, but you can see the ideas, whether it's a slip ball or the runs are being made. Whether it gets executed or not, it's different. With Jesus, I don't see that. I think he's kind of working in the moment a little bit more and being a bit more sort of responsive and reactive. Not always. Playing with instinct is probably a good way of putting it. It's not always a bad thing, but I think what Arteta wants in a forward is a bit more predictability, is a bit more, with Saka is the archetype. You're getting progressive passes received. You're getting ball retention. Jack Grealish is the perfect Pep Guardiola winger, because if you give him the ball, he will give it back to you and he will have progressed it 10 yards. That, you just know that. And with Jesus, I don't feel that same level of predictability in his game, which can be a benefit, but also can be a bit of a
trade-off. Yeah. What have you made of Zinchenko? Because he's another one. Like, I must admit, against Luton and against Brighton, I'm a big fan of Zinchenko. I do think the system's kind of left him, or leaving him to a degree in his current stature, a bit like what you said with Jesus. You kind of need to take a leaf out the City book. I do think, unfortunately, with Zinchenko, the better we get and we're creative all over the field, the pros to his game kind of become a bit more redundant. I don't think he's a physical unicorn like Timber could be for Arsenal in theory. I don't think, he's as great 1v1 as Tomiyasu. Obviously, his form hasn't been there with Kirill, and Kirill's a bit more defensive minded. I think the problem with Zinchenko, it's a bit difficult for me to say because he's a professional footballer, but in comparison to some of our defensive options, he's just simply not a physical specimen. You see the height we've introduced into our team, how difficult they are to beat 1v1. And I think because of that and a lot of, bias towards Zinchenko, people give him a hard time. I don't think he was amazing against Brighton, but I'm not going to lie, against Brighton and against Luton, I think they were positive steps in the right direction. That being said, as I said, I did think Gabriel looked a bit uncomfortable or unsure, having to, do his job and look over his shoulders in relation to Zinchenko. But what did you make of him?
Can I get the tactics board out?
Go on, bring it, man. This is what you're here for, mate.
So, yeah, hang on. Yes, I know how to share screen. Thank you, StreamYard. This one? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay,
zoom in a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, get rid of the pop-up as well, then.
I will. Says Mr. Tabs.
Yeah. I know
what's
going to come with it, so I thought this is my chance to strike, man.
This is your time to shine. How's exactly. That? Is that all right?
Yeah, that's splendid, man. Take it away, man. Take it away.
Okay, so last season, Zinchenko, this was the big thing. So the season before, we had more, we were, again, when I'm saying we had a 4 or we had a 3, doesn't mean we do that every single moment we were on the pitch. But one of the big things about last season was this 3-2 that with Zinchenko facilitated us to play, right? So we had Partey, Zinchenko, Ramsdale, like in this sort of shape, right? Now, why is that so beneficial to have as a fullback stepping in? Well, number one, you get your winger inside. So the winger has to make a decision then
whether to follow you.
Exactly. So let's say you've got 3 in a sort of pressing structure like this, 1, 2, 3. This winger then has a dilemma. He either follows Zinchenko inside, or he has to stay on Gabriel and Zinchenko's free.
Fucked either way, pardon my French.
Exactly. You also, if that happens, you can create overloads inside a little bit easier. It also means, I think I covered this in a video this week. It also means,
go and check that out, folks.
It also means that your midfielders can stay a bit higher, so they can occupy defenders further up the pitch. So you've got all these players who are having to deal with these guys further up the pitch, etc., etc. Zinchenko, but then also, yes, those are kind of theoretical, but also Zinchenko in this area of the pitch, in terms of receiving on the second line, is elite. He there's not
Very
many
good at
better
that.
players at receiving, and I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm saying at this skill specifically, receiving off Saliba, receiving off Zinchenko.
No, you're right. That's why he's in the team. Or that's why he was brought by Mikel Arteta.
He's unbelievable. He can also come over to this side in these sort of zones of influence or whatever. He's unbelievable. Last season, I should get rid of the other players for now. Last season, Ben White couldn't really do that. We had Kieran Tierney, who we know couldn't really do that. We had Tomiyasu, who at the time couldn't really do that. Now we have Timber, who can go in there.
A unicorn.
Now Ben White has found that in his game a little bit more. We also have our friend Declan Rice, who has the engine,
the handbrake of the team,
who has the engine to get up and down to, at times when the game calls for it, to get into these zones, right? So, for example, actually, I've got it already. So, for example,
and you're right, because against Brighton, that's one of the only times I really saw, or only times is an exaggeration, but you saw at times Gabriel would pull out wide, Declan Rice would kind of make that kind of left-hand channel movement, and that would allow Zini to stay further up the pitch more as a traditional fullback, and then Gabriel Jesus was narrow. So you're bang on the money with that with Declan Rice.
So, yeah, so it gives us the flexibility to create that 3-2 with a midfielder now, because he can also, because remember what we said before in terms of the 2 in here, if you're asking your midfielder to come in as opposed to your fullback to create the double pivot, you're pulling one of the players back, so you're not occupying someone. You're
counterproductive in the modern day.
It's counterproductive in the modern day. You want, it at the time,
what we're doing,
it was really,
to be fair, it calls for it at times, so
yeah,
I'm being a bit harsh.
It was really useful for us. But now also, it's not just that. Also, Ødegaard can drop in as well. He has a little bit more middle
as we saw against Brighton,
than last time. But also, we don't always want to create this 3-2 anymore. That isn't, the play completely. So we've seen this season creating a bit more of a sort of 4-2 in build-up, creating a bit more of a sort of 4-1. We've seen with swapping out
Ramsdale's got Raya.
We've seen this sort of situation where Kivior's gone a little bit higher. We've created a lot of different scenarios, and because of the engine of Rice, different passing lanes, etc., etc. So it's not just that we've kind of that Zinchenko has come out of the team for his defensive issues or whatever. What we created last season in that 3-2, we don't necessarily always want to do that now. We can create it in different ways, but also, we can try a 4-2 or a 3-1 or whatever it might be. There's a bit more sort of variety in terms of how we want to play through teams. But also when we do create, let's say the 3-2, say there is a game where we want to create that 3-2, we can do it in a number of different ways now. We can do it with White, Saliba, and Gabriel in their normal positions, but we can do it with, and even Kivior stepped in at times. White can go in terms of personnel, and also Rice can step in, and Ødegaard can step in a way that didn't before. So there's a number of different ways that that's kind of Zinchenko's influence, I would say, has decreased.
I think you're bang on the money with that, man. And I still think people are a bit harsh with Zini in that I do think there's games for him. I do think there's circumstances for him. I do think he's improved defensively. Whether he's improved to the scale to be a regular left back at this team or them kind of things, I'm not too sure. But I think he has improved. But I still think he's a valued squad player. I don't know with 2 years left on his deal what Arsenal will be thinking about, because it could be a good opportunity to make profit. But I do think fans are harsh. Do you think Saka looks fit?
Just quickly on Zinchenko as well. There are games for Zinchenko. it's I made this
I
point
wish
in the
people
video.
understood that, man.
But against Anfield, sorry, against Liverpool at Anfield, he would probably be our fourth choice. But against Luton at home, he's
You're the
probably
guy.
our first choice. So there's games for him, and no one's suggesting that Zinchenko can't be here, but it's whether he wants that role. That's another question. Saka, I don't think so. I think I always say with fitness, we don't have the information that the physio teams have. They have trackers. You can talk to the players, and every player is different in terms of, I think we used to have this idea, or some people still have this idea of players are fit or they're not. So actually, sometimes people can, Ben White has clearly been playing
Best
with an
example.
injury for a long time, but can get through games and play at a really good level.
Higher pain threshold, potentially.
Even with it, yeah, give him injections, whatever. I think I'm right in saying Lauren Koscielny used to play with injections for years.
Yeah.
It's just
we
one.
don't
of those
praise
things.
that guy on this platform after his antics when we left. So.
But yeah, so it's a sliding scale. I think you have to take each one individually. Saka, it sounds like is it Achilles injury?
Yeah. Seems like he's nursing a couple of knocks, if I'm honest with you. And I only asked you because obviously he pulled out the England squad. Now, obviously, everyone's going to be gassed and happy he's pulled out the England squad. And I do think a bit of that was the running, and I do like that. But he hasn't really trained with us. He's picked up knocks. Obviously, he was fit for the Luton game. We didn't want to risk him. And I do think there's a correlation between maybe potentially against City, which wasn't the greatest of games for any attacker, or what we saw against Brighton. He still made the difference, but he's not at his sparkling best. And I do know some fans say it is a bit of a cop-out to sit here and say players are not fit, but I do think that's been the case on a couple of occasions for Benjamin White and Saka. So that's why I asked you, really.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's a cop-out. It's ultimately it's dependent on each individual player and each individual player's situation and managing minutes and stuff. And that's there's a lot of decisions that are made before games, but also in games. You go, well, is he? It's all relative. There's no one size fits all to sort of fitness conversations. I just think with Saka, he's clearly nursing a couple of knocks here and there. Can he? I'm sure he'll start against Bayern, but I imagine he'll come off after might be say again.
We need him to.
Yeah, we need him to. So I think he'll start against Bayern and give it full gas for 60 minutes, knowing he's going to come off. So it's all. And also I think with Saka and White particularly, as in terms of their mentalities, I feel they're players who go, look, just play me. I
want to play ball
as much as possible. Yeah. So,
and I think you're bang on the money. And I think that's why I've always said it since I've started my YouTube channel. You can claim players lack commitment and things like that, but I think sometimes you need to read between the lines. And I think you cannot accuse a single Arsenal player, not that it's said now, of not caring. They're literally putting their bodies on the line. Benjamin White, the best example, because it's kind of sexy to say that now because we're fighting for league titles and things. But when Rob Holding came out in a podcast and said that when we bottled top four, nobody really wanted to hear it, if I'm completely honest. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of the talking points or sound bites with Benjamin White about him and Bielsa and the sort of one-to-one training he had, how it might be a bit naive and have a long-term detriment to Benjamin White, but he's known to mask injuries or play them down so that he can play. So it's amazing, really and truly, if I'm completely honest with you. Let's talk about Jorginho, man. Jorginho's a quality player, but to see Grandad overlapping for that build-up play for the goal is crazy. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, Jorginho's done well. I mean, I think the Brighton and the City games slightly passed him by. I had this conversation with George on the
That's
canal.
harsh in the Brighton game, man.
I think it did. I think the game that Jorginho is suited for, I would have. Let's be clear. I would have picked Jorginho for both games because I think the game I was expecting is a very high intensity press from both City and Brighton. So I'm wanting someone who is that secure in the first phase and someone who, once we get out of the first phase, can dictate the game a little bit more. I don't want a Declan Rice who, probably when we're camped, can deal with sort of transition threats. That, Rice against, our Old Trafford will be perfect in the 6. So it just depends. However, the way the games played out weren't necessarily, for me, games for Jorginho, specifically the Man City one. The way they played against us, it felt like he slightly got bypassed a little bit. We were going a little bit more direct and so on and so forth. And then Jorginho becomes a little bit less needed for me. But, that's the way the game goes sometimes. And I think I would like to see a change a little bit sooner in both those games, but it's fine. And he did well.
Before we go on to Kai Havertz, just to go back with the Zinchenko stuff, I think this is a good question. Why hasn't he been played as a left 8 for you? I'm sure you've heard that many a time.
Well, our left 8 at the minute is Declan Rice.
All right, let's say
So-
let's disregard him. Let's disregard Zinchenko being in the starting 11 per se or getting ahead of stuff. Why hasn't he been given more of an opportunity to
Well,
play organically in midfield for you then?
I think the case for Zinchenko being a left eight is about sort of his technical level and
I'm
how
not
he
here
might
for it.
how he might look in the sort of in the pocket and sort of threading those balls through. Can we get that further up the pitch? Which I get, but the left eight has so much more second ball responsibility. The left eight has so much responsibility in the press in terms of getting legs, in terms of stepping in
positioning
on
defensively as well.
Positioning defensively, positioning in the
the way to
block,
happen.
stopping transition threats. There's so much stuff out of possession, and then in possession, the left eight has to be sort of stood on the edge of the box. Well, can be stood on the edge of the box, crashing the box, and obviously he play it differently, but at the moment it's crashing the box. It's potentially overlapping on the with the foot. I don't know. There's loads of stuff in possession that I'm not saying Zinchenko can't do, but Zinchenko's best qualities are a little bit further back for me. As I say, what is his superpower? It's receiving off the centre back and turning and progressing forward. It's getting us from the first phase
He's almost
to
a
the final third.
facilitator in some senses in that regard.
Yeah, getting us through that second phase. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think there's some people who sort of go, well, he's really technically secure and he's behind that sort of, there's the first line of let's say a standard press and he's in there. Can we shift him onto that next line? I wouldn't be so sure.
And it's a bit harsh for me to say because I think Zinchenko is intelligent and all of these things. But I think and everybody's got a role to play in Arteta's team. You've got a lot of information. But quote unquote, I do think he's better when he has somewhat within the realms of what he's demanded to do, a free left back role. I think within the structure, respectfully to Zini, I think it's a liability waiting to happen. Me personally, I know I'm a bit old school in my thinking, but if you go to sleep or you're accused of going to sleep from fullback, central midfield, it's an accident waiting to happen. We both know football's decided in both areas of the pitch, but it's played in the midfield. And I do think there's games for Zini to play there, of course, but I just don't think it's for us. He does play there for his country. I do think there's occasions, but I'm just not convinced with it really and truly. It could be an option. You never know. He could find himself becoming more of a squad player guy. And who knows, if there was a twist of fate and he had to play there, me and you might be sitting here and saying something completely different. What have you made of Kai Havertz? And being a bit of a devil's advocate, with Kai Havertz's form up front, do you think that might sway thinking in relation to a striker?
I think the striker conversation, I don't think, can be divorced from the forward area. And what we need in the forward area could be addressed in a number of different ways. I think we need a little bit more height. If you want my Marcus Rashford take, I can go for that.
Yeah. Don't part that. I've got that. Part that. Say what you're saying, and then get on to the Rashford thing, please.
What are we missing? I think we're missing a little bit of pace. I think we're missing a little bit of height. I think we're missing a little bit of finishing off both feet. I think we're missing a little bit of box presence. I think we're missing a little bit of box separation. I think we're missing a little bit of someone who can play on the last line. So all of that could be a 9, but it also could be any kind of inside forward, another inside forward. And I think there's space for Kai Havertz to be a number 9 for periods of the season. But this is my whole thing. We will all want to sign a 9 to go and play 30 games a season. Well, sorry, go and score 30 goals a season. Well, I'm sure Mikel Arteta would love someone who scored 30 goals a season. But one, name me someone who's a guarantee who can do that for you, other than the Harry Kanes and the early Haalands. It's all very well and good saying it. And secondly, I think if he did sign it, that wouldn't be, Mikel wouldn't go, right, well, you can score me 30 goals a season, so I'm signing it. That might be a benefit on the list, but number 1, you have to contribute to the team. We know
you have to. You have to affect the game across 90 minutes when you're not scoring. And it sounds stupid, but I've said it when you're here before. Obviously, if goals were the most important thing to a striker, Jesus and Nketiah, Kai Havertz, and I know Trossard's quite clinical, but Trossard, none of them would be leading the line. I'm not going to say it's the least important because goals win games. And as you said, if we could get another 20 to 30 goals like forward, we're really in the money. But it's almost, and again, certain people understand what I'm about to say. It's almost like Mikel Arteta, the least important thing of your striker is his ability to score goals. If you can do that, that's a bonus. You do have to contribute. But as you said, it's about working the channels, dropping into midfield. Sometimes being a striker is a bit of a selfless act. I know Kai Havertz is getting on the end of goals and whatnot, but you don't get too much joy. Saka and Martinelli and the wingers and the late runs from midfield, as you said, that really get to benefit. It's almost like playing up front. You're a Saka, you're like a lamb to the slaughter, really and truly. You're like a Trojan horse. So, and that's where whenever I have you on the platform and you kind of feel the way I do, it's like there are strikers we like. Me and you could talk about Osimhen, your Kehres, who's been linked, whether we want Tony or not. But and the good thing is Arteta has different ideas, but I don't think there's one striker that you could say is 100% convincing. I think there's some you can like more than others, but that's just me. And it's weird with Kai Havertz because he's a unicorn in that, across a season, he's going to be utilized in a bunch of roles. He's probably going to be one of those players that, for the top 6 clashes, Arteta's really got in his thinking. But then if we do sign a striker, if we do sign a left 8, obviously big up Kai Havertz, but you can make a case of he might not necessarily just be in Arsenal's strongest 11 in what our fans make of stuff. So it's a technical one, really, to coin Babs again.
It is a technical one.
It's techie.
Yeah. I just think we need a rising tide that lifts all boats. And what we want is the team to go on and have another record goal scoring season. We don't want to go and sign someone. And also, what happens if they get injured? Arteta won't do that.
Square one, yeah.
Arteta won't. He might sign a striker. I'm not saying he won't, but he won't sign a striker because he thinks he can score 30 goals a season.
It don't make sense. And it's almost a poison chalice playing up front because, I do think, and me and you have had conversations on air and not on air about it. It's like the striker market isn't really flushed with littered talents. I don't know why that is. Is it a byproduct? Is because the football's become a bit more systemic? And I do think it's a difficult job because everybody kind of loves Kai Havertz now, but he's not necessarily playing any different to how he was when we lost in the FA Cup. I think you could be a striker that gets 20 league goals, but me and you are going to do tactical videos and say, oh, but his heat map and this is not there and that's not there. Or you could be like the Jesuses and the Lacazettes, and you could be a link-up kind of player, but ultimately you don't get the goal. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. What I would say to Kai Havertz is big him up, because whether you're a starter, you're a squad player, everybody's standing up to be counted at the right time. How you feeling about Bayern Munich then? Because I've seen them videos, Arsenal Champions League winners and whatnot. You puffed out chest. So how you feeling about Bayern, man?
Confident. That doesn't mean I think we're going to win.
What gives you confidence? We want to hear everything.
I've said I think Bayern will beat us over 2 legs, and I think City will win the league. So but you can go into those games confident that we're not going to get spanked. So I just think there's a little bit of know-how in managing those. And again, it's not just it's managing those fixtures, those 2 games, the 2-legged draw that we don't have enough experience at. And I think so we saw it against Porto. We were nervous. We and we will be nervous against Bayern. There's nothing to be nervous of. I appreciate that, but we're humans. It's
uncharted waters for a lot of these players. Like even Saliba in the second leg against Porto, you're right.
He was nervous, and that's okay.
And that's cool.
It's genuinely fine because it's the first time they've done it. The first time you do anything, you're gonna be nervous. So
my first time I wasn't nervous, but I hear that. I was excited. I'm joining the club.
I was terrified. So, look, you get nervous for things, and that happens. So I just, I feel they'll have a little bit more. I think we'll actually probably control a lot of aspects of that match, but don't underestimate Bayern Munich. I appreciate they aren't doing so well in the Bundesliga, but coming away from home, the likes of Müller, Gnabry, Coman, Neuer, De Ligt, Davy, these guys, Kimmich, they've done it, Goretzka, they've done it year on year on year on year. I think there's a difference between having the capacity and showing you can go and do it. I think we all know, we have the capacity to run the length of Africa like that Russ guy. We'll probably all do. It literally have I can walk, so I could probably run, but it's in here. There's a
discipline required. We're not on
it. It's a different level. So they've done that 100 times before. So I'm just more convinced of that. Although I think on the football pitch we'll show them a lot.
Are you not scared? Because scared is not the right word, but you know, you kind of touched on it. You know, they've been terrible domestically. I think Thomas Tuchel is leaving. There's been question marks about their personnel, their recruitment, just everything about them. Does this make you somewhat more nervous going into it than if they were, you know, the historic Bayern Munich of what they would have been? Because you do sometimes see a correlation. You know, when Chelsea unfortunately won the Champions League, Real Madrid a couple of times haven't won the league when they've won the champs. You kind of got to throw your eggs in this basket, really. And you know, to be fair to Thomas Tuchel, he has won this competition and made the final twice.
Yeah, I just think it's a different beast. I think we saw that against Porto. I think we saw it in, you know, we feel it. There's a different quality to the games. They're more open. They're more teams don't quite know what to expect of one another. There's more willingness to take risks and so on because there's a real sense of sort of the time running out, you know, literally and metaphorically. So, you know, and it's a games that are more often, I think, won by, you know, whenever we analyze Premier League games, it's a lot more about, okay, what was the build up? What was the structure? How do we tweak things or whatever? But in these games, there's a lot more in Champions League games. There's a lot more about moments, managing, you know, a period of a game, little, you know,
Real Madrid about individual quality at times.
Yeah,
well,
and Real Madrid.
There's
a reason
exactly.
Real Madrid are there
they
because
haven't
they
been the
normally
best
have the
team
best
across
players.
2 legs, and they've done it. So that you're right.
They normally have the best players, and they can normally pull out a Brahim Diaz moment or what will be a Billing and Mbappe moments or a Bellingham moment or whatever. And I'm not sure we quite have that in our team. I think we have a brilliant
I saw your
team.
tweet about that, man. Expand on that as well because it ties into it.
Yeah, so that was about De Bruyne. What's the next stage of this team? It's to add players who Arsenal, as I said at the beginning of the stream, Arsenal can manage and play any type of game. I'm in love with this coach. If you couldn't tell, I think he's one of the best. I think he's one of the best coaches in the world. I really do believe that in terms of actually getting his team playing in every single phase of play.
It's facts.
In every single phase of play. But there's another level to football. There's people who can go and can say to you, "I'm going to go and win this game today." And then you have your moments. You have your Kevin De Bruyne moments. You have your Mohamed Salah moments. You have Bruno Fernandes even, who has a terrible stinker and then scores a golazo.
Yeah.
Do we have enough of those players?
Life is funny.
Think we do. I don't think we do. So
I don't think we do either, man. Because who could you really? And don't get twisted, you know, Kai Havertz of late has popped up with some. Trossard's got us out of trouble. Martinelli's done it on occasion. Odegaard's done it. Do you know what? To be honest with you, Declan Rice has a case for it. You look at the Chelsea away. You look at the Man United at home. He's done it on occasion, and I guess Saka's done it on occasion. But I don't think we've. Ability is one thing, but we don't have that Mo Salah or Kevin De Bruyne. And sometimes, as perfect as Arteta is coaching us and what our players are doing, sometimes there's 3, 4, 5, 6 games a season where, tying into your point, you just need someone that can make some magic happen and just get you out of it, especially at this point in the season. Before it goes over my head, the Rashford stuff, you know, I forgot to get that out of you. What do you make of that? Because many people are like, well, different. No, what are you on about, mate?
Okay, I'm going to make a video about this, and I know it won't be popular. Okay, firstly, this isn't something I'm, and in the video, I'm going to prove that I've wanted Rashford for a long time. I've always thought Rashford has a massive future somewhere. I don't think we realise how bad United are. They are shocking. Out of possession, they are maybe the worst team in the league.
Trust the process. Give Ten Hag time, man. We don't want that to end anytime soon.
I mean, sorry, yes, I know they're brilliant. They're fantastic.
So good, so good.
So good, more than you believe. But that
was a good accent.
The way they're pulled around, the line, the lines, like the distance between the lines, the way they attack spaces, the way they defend space, like everything is just the lack of accountability, the lack of compassion, everything. Right? Rashford has been in that environment and trying to win United something significant for 8 years now, and seen as the golden boy. That is a massive mental struggle to go out there every single game and give it your 100%. I'm not excusing Rashford's out of possession, the videos that go around. Of course I'm not.
But decision making as well, wow.
And some of his decision making, right? But we literally have heard from Kai Havertz this week, Mikel has a different approach to football, and what I believe that is all the little they've said is the little details about body positioning, about making certain decisions, about giving someone a structure in the final third to fit into and say when he's here, when he's here, go here, when he's here, go here, not putting it all down to individual moments. The wages are a concern. That's something that maybe we'd have to have a conversation about, whether he could drop his wages or whatever. But what are we missing? We're missing some explosive pace in the front line. Rashford has that. We're missing some devastating ball striking in the front line. Rashford has that. I believe he could rotate in and be an option at centre forward and be an option on the left. We need that. We need that. Arteta constantly signs from the Premier League and wants that experience. He's at 26. He's a perfect age. There's loads of other things that we'll go into in the video. But if you look at the position that Ineos are in as well, in terms of sort of refreshing this project, someone like a Rashford might be a perfect one to go, actually, that's out the door because we've got too far. We've come too far down that road with Rashford. I just think under Arteta, in a proper structure, with a probably structured out of possession game and an in possession game, in a proper environment, people go, Rashford's terrible at United, equals he will be terrible at Arsenal. Well, we know that isn't true. We know it isn't true. So what we have to do is isolate the player from the environment and put him in a new one and see what can happen.
I think the thing with Rashford, I'm conflicted. I like the guy a lot. He's one of those players that doesn't play for your club, but you like. Obviously, it's got nothing to do with football, but I think everyone can applaud him for doing what politicians in this country should be doing. I think I don't know where I sit on Rashford, because me liking him as a footballer, I kind of have to isolate that point. I think the reasons I like him, as you said, I think on the counter attack, he could be great. I feel he's a bit of a confidence player in the situation. Don't really look that good at United. Arteta would install that you'd see him play better at tenfold. Obviously, I think he's adaptable. He's Premier League proven. He's English. As you said, Arteta puts an arm around these players. So I think there's a lot to like about him. I don't necessarily care about his wages because I'm not paying them. I can't pay them. But, there's the wages. There's the level of inconsistency. There's the decision-making for a 26-year-old. And again, many people would point to Kai Havertz and say he didn't look like an upgrade. He didn't look useful. So you could give that to Rashford. I just feel with everything there's a lot of baggage. And as much as I would take Rashford, is he necessarily an upgrade on what we have? And although I believe he could play up front, I haven't, a few years ago when Jose was there, he kind of spoke about his inability to play up front, and that kind of stays with me. I think the games have to be in certain conditions for Rashford. I think the fact that he stays as a left winger is a byproduct because he hasn't improved with his general plays, link-up plays, back to goal and things like that. But I do like him. I don't think we'll sign him, but if there was an opportunity to grab him, then why not? I just don't think it would happen because of the wages. I can't let you get out of it. I've got a couple of questions for you. We're going to get into the Bayern Munich starting 11, but Emil Smith-Rowe, I've waited for this day. You right, mate? I saw your tweets. Don't come back and join the club now. It's too late. It's too late.
One game, folks. One game.
Yeah, if it was anyone else, I would have said it's a glorified championship.
One losing game.
That's all he needs.
Look, he showed an out of possession fight that I haven't seen. And I'm open to it. But, has he answered all my questions in one game? No.
Use more of them fancy words to describe Smith-Rowe, man. You'll speak a bit too basic English. We need to hear some crazy words.
Look, Smith-Rowe has unique qualities that aren't in anywhere else in the squad, but so do a lot of players. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get in.
Martinelli.
Adama Traore has unique qualities in this squad. Doesn't mean you put him in. So I also, there is this weird narrative about Arteta, like Smith-Rowe. He saved Arteta's job. He should be grateful. So to give him minutes, bizarre takes.
I mean, even if he did, it doesn't work like that.
He can't do that. So look, he's a great player. Obviously, I think if his body can support him, I think he can have a big say in this run-in. I really like the guy. I really like what he does. I think a lot of his I think a lot of what we've seen over the last couple of seasons is the natural progression of a young player. We're comparing him with Saka, who's had the most linear rise of all time. And even then, there's been a little bumps with Saka, but you're right. And you said it there. That's the issue, is that you said it earlier in that no two footballers are the same. Obviously, Saka, I think some people try to be footballers. Some are born to be footballers. And I think Saka is one of those talents at Arsenal. Not to say we haven't had that, because we've got Ethan now, Max Dolman. These guys are about, and plenty of others. But every couple of years, there's a player you can say, yeah, you know what? Your grandma who knows nothing about football could watch Saka or watch these guys and say, you're going to be ballers. For the others, it's a bit like that. And I think with Smith-Rowe, a bit like what Arteta said, I think this adversity will make him better. I want to go back to Rashford, because that's a good point, man. Do you think obviously, if Rashford signed for Arsenal, Arteta would have some confidence that he'll buy into stuff. But from what you see of Rashford, and we just mentioned his off the ball, which surely his defensive work would be an issue then. Well, he's not willing to do the defensive work when the distances are as mad as they are, and he's having to literally constantly be out of possession defending. Which, by the way, okay, maybe he should be on 90 minutes, running after every ball or whatever. But when you've done that for 8
paid a lot
years,
of money, he needs to work hard.
Yeah, fine. But but when you've done that for 8 years, we can all say we were in Arsenal. Look, let's put it this way: if Rashford signed for Arsenal, and day one we were Chelsea at home, and he cut in off his right onto his right and scored 2 goals, you would love him immediately.
I'd sign him because it means Ben White won't have a bad game against United. He seems to be the only one that causes White issues.
And there's not many forwards in world football who have an inevitability about them. And we need that. We need an inevitability. When he cuts in on his right, if you get him in the right positions at the right angle of the box, which, we could do however we worked that with Havertz holding the linebacker, whatever it is, right?
We scored that great goal against us.
He's done it twice against us, but, what was it, 30 goals? Like this guy is inevitable in certain games. He would also make us better on the transition, which is something we aren't amazing at.
Very good ball carrier.
Very good ball carrier. It doesn't have to start every game, and also it's going to take him some time. But I'm not. Look, you might just dislike Rashford. You might think the wages are too much. You might think it's too much of a project. None of which I could disagree with. But the idea that Rashford in a new environment wouldn't be different is it's objectively bad analysis to call it what it is. I'm not saying he would be perfect, and I'm not saying he would be the answer to Arsenal solutions. I'm not even saying we should buy him, but the idea that Rashford at United equals bad, therefore Rashford at Arsenal equals bad, isn't good thinking.
No, it's not. It's a simple way of thinking, Alex. Is what I would say. Do you know what? Yeah, you can have Rashford, you can have Mudryk, with everything all considered, because I think there's parallels there, and that they're talented players in terrible environments. You can have Rashford or Mudryk. Which one are you going for?
I think maybe Mudryk, because there's less baggage and probably less to worry about. I don't think also
less to unpack. Yeah,
less to unpack. I think he's younger. Similarly in terms of the pace and ball striking, there's something there. I think Rashford with the height helps us, but yeah, I think there might be a little bit too much baggage. But if Rashford, I think there's a real possibility that Ineos might be willing to do a 50-60 million pound deal for Rashford, and that might sound crazy right now, but you come the summer. When they're looking at their PSR, they're looking at how do we move this project on and show people that we're serious. A Rashford sale might be a real sort of, and a Fernandes sale. Those types of sales. What are they going to be doing this summer? There's going to be huge changes at United. Do you think they're going to want to keep around the same
off the field?
Do you think they want to keep around the same old players who already there's question marks about their attitude and so on? But this is what I come back to. Environment is king. We all feel it, right?
It's nurture versus nature.
With certain groups of people, right? We all feel it. You feel open. You can chat. Why are there some people that you hang around with? And you're like, I have nothing to say to you. I have nothing to. I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to talk to you about. And some people you have everything to say to. Environment. Why in some situations do you feel like you're doing your best work, and in some other work situations you feel like you're doing terrible work? It's environment. We all think we're these individuals who are like these, we control everything about our destiny. But it's late Western thinking. We are so connected to one another and need one another. If Rashford is in the right environment, he will thrive. Maybe not to an Arsenal level. Maybe not to the level we want. Maybe you don't want him because of wages. That's fine. I can't disagree with it. But the idea, I'll just go back to it. The environment is king.
It's nurture versus nature, and I think you're bang on the money. With that being said, then, my last thing for you, then, talk to me about Bayern Munich and your starting 11. Some people are tempted, for Partey and Jorginho. Not sure where you're at. What's your starting 11? Obviously, Saliba, Gabriel, White, and Raya are, easy dead certainties.
I would go for Tomiyasu at left back.
Same.
I would go.
Do you think that's a concern, though?
No. And if it's a fitness thing, then 60 minutes, take him off for either Zinchenko or Kivior, depending on what the game needs. I would go for a Rice, Partey, Ødegaard midfield, because I think there's going to be more running and transitions involved, and I think that's our most secure midfield. And I would go for a Saka if he's fit, Martinelli, Havertz up top.
I'm with you with that. And the only thing that tempts me is I said I'll start Partey, for example, but I am wrestling between Partey and Jorginho. I am going to lean towards Partey. I think Tomiyasu has to start that, with the greatest of respect to Kirill. The only thing I would say is Tommy strikes me as someone, he has been getting minutes, but he needs a more consistent run. But as you said, he might just play 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and then come off. There is one, though. For me, I do think Martinelli has to start. But I'm tempted to play Gabriel Jesus off that left-hand side. I know fans are not going to be happy with that. But, you know, I just believe that he could do something for us. And to be honest with you, if he's been clinical in anything or saved his best for anything, it's been the Champions League for us, really. And again, I'm not saying this as a luxury to play you, but generally the Kai Havertz's, the Jorginhos, the Thomas Partey's and the Jesus's, we bought you for these moments, really. Big up our whole team because everyone's standing up to be counted regardless of your experience, but we bought you lot for those moments. I must admit, when I did a preview with Gooner, I believe, I said I'd play Jesus. I am leaning towards Martinelli now, but I am fighting with the devil between those two, man.
You can't change your opinion. It's the internet.
Yeah, you're right. Whatever we said in 2004, you know, 2034 is going to be there, man. What are you saying for score prediction then? I'm going to go for 2-0. Or no, Harry Kane, there's an error.
I think we will win the first leg and lose the second and go out. I think it will be 2-1 at the Emirates, and I think it will be 3-1 at the Allianz.
I know I said the last thing, but I want to get your thoughts on that. Why do you think we'll lose away from home in the second leg?
I just can't, and maybe this is my thing with the Premier League. I just can't see it. And, you know, even the idea that we might actually win the league this season is genuinely mental to me. I just can't see it. I can't see it. If we do it, look, this has kind of been my whole thing the whole time. I'm not just predicting it for this reason. These are genuinely held beliefs. But, you know, there is obviously a part of me that goes as win-win either way. I'm either right or we win. But the point being more that I can't see that happening. I think we're still the football concerns I had have massively been answered, but the moments part of us, handling moments in the way City do, they just seem to find a way every single time. Someone pops up, someone does it for them. That is the part of our game that I don't think we have yet.
Surely it's getting, even though I agree, like you know more than me, like we've done these things, and I'll always say I don't look at the league table. I'm quite positively pessimistic on these things, but even me with 7
Deluded,
games left,
some would say.
Yeah, exactly. But with 7 games left and everything we're doing and all the metrics and that we don't need to get into and what Arteta is doing, surely it's getting harder and harder to not believe that we're going to do this.
It's a lot closer than I thought, you know. 100%. You know, if I'm saying I was very, very sure City will come first and Arsenal will come second, but I'm much less sure now. I still stand by my take, and until it happens, I'll stand by it. I just the only argument between them is that Kevin De Bruyne moment at the weekend. We don't have that. We just don't have that, and until I can see that in our team consistently, whether it's from a Haaland, a De Bruyne, a Rodri, you know, those types of players, when we have that in our team consistently, and I believe that is something we 100% have, in the same way Liverpool fans, you speak to any Liverpool fan, they're going into that Old Trafford game going, Salah will have a moment. Salah will have a moment. We don't have that. It might happen, but we don't go into those games going, Saka will score.
I mean, and that's how I feel. I like the trajectory. I like what we're doing. And people always say, oh, why don't you speak with Chess more and say we're going to do this and that and the other? There'll be a world where if I genuinely believe we can smash anybody, we can win things, we can go 100 games without losing, I will say it. I like the trajectory. But now it's about those fine margins and answering those fine margins that make the maximum of difference. And we're in the right way. We're at where we should be. In many ways, we've accelerated the project. And maybe in the last 18 months, including this year, got ahead more than Arteta and Arsenal expected, but there's still a long way to go. We need to chase the illusion of perfection. And what I would say to people that are, you know, counteracting or think me and you are being counterproductive, we can't speak to Mikel Arteta, but if you asked him, would he necessarily say what you're saying? Probably not. He knows that this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's many different gears and games, and Arteta is unpredictable. We don't know what he's doing. I'm being a bit of an exaggerated guy at the moment, but he might next season just say, you know what, Saliba, you're not the guy anymore. I need to do something else there, or I need to do something. Saka might not be there. You know, you just never know what this man is planning, really. He's a mad scientist. The man's a genius. Whether he wins major honours at Arsenal, he will have a great career, and he is one of the most, if not the most adaptive manager in the Premier League, if I'm completely honest with you. My last question for you, because you're evading it, score prediction, man. I don't think anybody heard.
No, I did it. My bad, I think 2-1 to Arsenal at the Emirates, and I think 3-1 to Bayern away.
You know what? At the Emirates, 2-1 Harry Kane. At their place, penalties. I don't know how the scoreline work out. I think penalties, man. I think penalties.
Okay.
Because like what we said earlier, it's not so much that we were scared at Porto away because there was different reasons for why we didn't get the result. But I just think of the home leg against Porto, and I just feel there's a couple of things our players psychologically going into that Champions League realm are going to have to address. Arteta hasn't signed a contract extension to my knowledge, but you'd imagine he signs a new deal. What content you got to come out and let people know they can find you, man? Not that
I think I am going to make this Rashford video.
You have to, man. You have to. I'm going to watch it. I always watch your content. You always see me in the comments.
Thank you, mate.
Nah, man,
and then Cannon Podcast later on today, which you can check that out. And then there'll be another video on Different Knock later on in the week.
Exactly, people. So, yeah, hopefully the next time Alex is here, we're still in good spirits. I'm going to try and get you back. I'm going to put him on blast here, people. Should we say either the 22nd or the 29th of April, dependent on what your schedule is? Let's go for that because there'll be a couple of games and whatnot.
I think I'm good for both currently. As long as we get it in soon, then that should be good.
Now, you know what? Let's just do the 22nd then. Let's pencil it in. Let's pencil it in. You've got it there, folks.
It's in the diary.
Aye, so people, you don't need to spam him. If he flops, get onto him. But nah, he doesn't flop, man. He's good company. And this is why me and Alex have done videos for a while now. The moment I saw his YouTube content, I just thought this guy really knows what he's talking about. And he looks at it from I can't really say nobody looks at anything from an unbiased side because we all do, but there's an air of just being a football purist and just, if the sun shines, one thing I like about you, if it's sunny outside, you're going to say it's sunny. If it's raining, you're going to say it's raining. You might say it's raining right now, but it could be sunny. You're not going to do this hyper-essentialized BS. That's one thing I haven't got time for.
Thank you, man.
So I've got the most time for your content and I appreciate you being on my platform, man.
Pleasure.
So, yeah, man. You heard from the man himself where his content's coming out from. Let us know your thoughts. I'm pretty sure in the comments you lot probably disagree with the majority of things we said, but yeah, man, follow Alex on the platforms. Let us know what your thoughts are. Appreciative to Alex for joining me, and hopefully we beat Bayern Munich, man. On that note, my guy, let you enjoy your day. Thanks for tuning in again, bro.
Thank you, mate.
Come on, man. Peace.
Always just that. Defending. I think it's like